Alrighty, it is 3 o'clock. Welcome to Replenish the Atmosphere of Discovery, where we discover the Master's plan for our lives. Okay, so today's session is titled Survival Mode. Today, we are talking about survival mode. So, being in survival mode as an unhealthy coping mechanism is not an achievement and it's not something to aspire towards, right? When you are in survival mode and someone asks how you're doing, you may say, "Oh, I'm, working hard." But being in survival mode is not working hard. Using those words, saying working hard, right? Using those words make it sound like something that should be celebrated when really you should be saying, "I'm overworked. I'm neglecting vital areas in my life, or I'm sinking," right? This is what you should be saying. But a lot of times we say, "Oh, I'm just, been working hard," right? It is working quicker to your demise. Being in this mode means that a part of you is struggling while other parts are dying or may get left behind while all your focus and energy is on something else, right? And so this is not to be confused with your body's natural response to danger. Okay, so we're talking about being in survival mode as a unhealthy coping mechanism. I'm not talking about being in survival mode, talking about your body's natural response when there's actual danger there. Okay, I'm referring to that unhealthy response as a coping mechanism. So isolation, avoidance, impulsion, and codependency are other unhealthy coping mechanisms that come up while you're in survival mode. Okay, so if you are experiencing all of these things, right, you are definitely in survival mode. If you are secretly struggling, which is that isolation and avoidance, right? If you are impulsively spending or eating or binging anything, if you are excessively emotionally and psychologically reliant on someone, right? If all of these describe some area of your life, then you are in survival mode. Okay, so some of you may be in survival mode in one area. Some of you may be in survival mode in just one or two areas, right? If you are in a mental survival mode, you may be experiencing memory loss. Your thoughts and your thinking patterns are irrational or overwhelming and unclear. And in this state, your brain will act impulsively to maintain self-preservation, right? If you are in an emotional survival mode, you may become numb or emotionally unstable. Okay, you may become withdrawn and isolated, defensive, right? You may also be experiencing physical side effects because you can get sicker quicker when you have unprocessed emotions because it affects your immune system, right? It causes that defense system that we need to not get sick, right? It brings that down when we are emotionally unsettled. Also, if you are in physical survival mode, right? That means systems in your body are having to compensate for an inadequacy somewhere, okay? So, your adrenaline, it begins to pump your heart faster, your blood pressure go up, your muscles tense up to prepare to respond, okay? Your organs begin finding ways to survive by pulling from other areas. So your physical body is in disarray in this state, right? If you are in spiritual survival mode, that means your spirit is broken and hungry and exhausted. Your spirit is malnourished. You feel faithless and hopeless. Okay, but you've learned how to put on that false blanket of freedom and stability. Okay, you know how to look the look, you know how to talk the talk. You know all the spiritual rituals, right? Prayer, fasting, churching, scripture, right? You know all of those spiritual rituals to maintain the appearance of wholeness, but your spirit is crushed and you're bleeding on every other part of you that needs your spirit to be whole in order to survive, right? And I say rituals because if your heart is not in it, then it's not a practice. It's a ritual. It is your mindset while you are doing these things, right, that determines the difference. So all of these systems, being in survival mode, can cause you to isolate, avoid, become impulsive, and codependent. Okay. In survival mode, you have and are operating in a heightened mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual state. When you're in survival mode, you are operating in a heightened mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual state. This is characterized by being short tempered, right? Agitated, frequent mood swings, or inability to control your emotions. You want your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual state to be strong, not heightened. Okay. There's a difference. Heightened means that it's overactive. Okay. So while it's dimming your thinking and your learning area, your fight or flight response is in overdrive when all of these things are heightened. Okay, so there's a difference. You want these areas to be strong, not heightened. And so we can confuse ourselves by thinking just because it appeared to work out or appeared to get us through our last situation, then that means that it was good for every part of us, right? But some part of us is suffering that we're not paying attention to. Some of your relationships have suffered, right? Your health has suffered, and now you may have irreversible damage to your body, okay? Your spirit suffered, and it's damaged and broken, right? Your emotions have suffered, and you have not even thought about trying to manage that chaos within your emotions. Your mind has suffered, and it can't even complete a train of thought or perceive correctly. You want to think about that even though you might be in survival mode in this area, you are diminishing another area of your life that needs your attention. Being in survival mode means you do not feel safe or secure, which is related to your trust issues as well as the challenges that you're facing at that time, right? So, one of the ways you begin to live instead of just surviving is by dealing with your trust issues. And hopefully, you began to do that last session. Like you've had a week to start bringing those things up to find out what your expectations are, if you need to lower them, if you need to raise them, right? So during this survival period, your brain's focus is only on getting through the challenges that you are currently facing, right? That's what your brain is focused on, which means you're not thinking about if this is taking you in the wrong direction. You're not thinking about if you will have irreparable damage in your mind, body, soul, and spirit, right? You're not thinking about is what I'm doing in survival mode taking me away from the people that will help me. It also stops you from enjoying life and you just begin existing or playing a part in everybody else's life, right? You just play your part. You get up, you play your part in everybody else's life. You go to the job, you do what you're supposed to do at the job. If you have children, you do what you're supposed to do as a mother or father, right? You're just playing a part, but you are not living your own life, okay? Being in constant survival mode is not God's plan. Okay. It causes you to assume the character of someone who is alone and without help, which is not true if God is our Father, right? And so God ensures that you have who and what you need to complete your purpose. In survival mode, you stay in a constant fight or flight state when God tells us to be anxious for nothing, right? So even if you have to fight, there's an assurance of victory that creates a calmness, okay? In survival mode, you're constantly on alert and fearful as if God sleeps or has not given us power. You're struggling to focus, not thinking with clarity when we should be of sound mind and spirit. In survival mode, we feel easily offended and threatened as if a weapon formed against us could prosper, right? In survival mode, we remain in constant stress and burnout as if there was not a way of escape. I'm letting you know that if you are in survival mode in any area of your life, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, it is not God's plan. Okay. We have to take care of ourselves. Every area. We cannot let other areas diminish or be malnourished because we're hyper focused on just one part. You must be intentional about recognizing when one part is lacking something. Okay. We have to learn to meditate. We have to learn to breathe. We have to intentionally stop ourselves from running marathons in our minds, right? We have to make the changes we need to make, get the right support. Some of us have support, but it's not the right support, okay? Set boundaries, get clarity, nourish every part of you so that no part is left stuck in survival mode. It is better to have lived than to have survived a thing. When you survive something, you barely made it, right? And if you made it, there was no joy in it, okay? When you live through something, you're not letting the challenges become your life or become who you are. So through difficulties, don't forget to live, okay? Or you will find that there are many parts of you to repair or even rebirth because they died while little parts of you survived, right? And we all experience challenges and difficulties, but when they go unsolved for so long, it puts us in survival mode. God will preserve and protect us, right? As our Father, He will preserve and protect us. And why does He have to do that? Because we're always doing something we're not supposed to do, right? We're always saying something we're not supposed to say. He's already promised that He would preserve and protect us. And our confidence needs to start being built upon that fact, right? And so this is also why we should guard our hearts. Your heart is the control center. When your heart is affected, it affects your spirit, which affects your mind and your body. If your spirit is affected, it will affect your mind and your body. Okay. So if you keep your heart in perfect peace, it is a guard for your mind, body, and spirit. So we create certain challenges in our lives through ignorance or rebellion. Either this is something we didn't have information on, right? Or we just want to do the opposite of what we should. It is our job to get the information we need to make better decisions and to do the things that make us better, right? When we do the opposite, we face the consequences for doing the opposite. Okay. So whether your mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual challenges are your fault or not, it is not healthy to remain in survival mode. You don't focus on the fault or the failure, you focus on the solution. Okay. And to find a solution, that means you have to put the problems on the table. Okay. Once you find the solution and your heart and mind return to a healthy state, then you can see your lessons in that failure, right? You cannot comprehend a lesson in an unhealed state because your perception is still in survival mode, right? So after you come out of that thing, then you're able to say, oh, okay, this is what I did. This is what I should have did. Being in survival mode will not sustain you in the long run. Okay. You may have short bursts of what seems like stability, but it will not last when you are allowing some parts of you to be diminished, right? The problems don't fix themselves, the solution does, right? You can't fix a problem with a problem. The solution is what fixes the problem. And so we can complain and we can try our best, but have we made a plan? Have we taken some action to reach a solution, right? Not taking action and created another problem because you're still in survival mode, right? You want to take action towards a solution to the problem. So denial doesn't work, okay? You have to start accepting where you are so that you start to gain some clarity and work towards a solution. Stop calling it normal. It's not normal to remain in survival mode. What should be normal to you is living abundantly, right? Not just existing or surviving, but truly living a life of abundance. And when we think of abundance, we only think financial a lot of times. But I'm talking about abundance in the health of your mind and the health of your emotions and the health of your spirit. That is abundance as well. And so we can create this false sense of peace, right? That is really us ignoring the problem. That's not peace. By ignoring our issues, we are internalizing that chaos in our minds and our bodies, in our spirits, right? In our emotions. Okay. And until you make the unconscious conscious, you will not live in true freedom, right? You will only live in the shadow of it because you're ignoring the things that needs to be put on the table, that needs to be dealt with. Okay. When you put it all on the table, addressing every system, every challenge, you can correctly assess it. Some of those challenges collectively has one solution, right? One solution could fix several systems that are diminished, okay? But you would never know if you don't bring it to the light. So you might have one solution for 20 of the issues that are on the table, but you would never know it because you're still suppressing and repressing it. If you are in survival mode, there's a few things I want to tell you. In any area, you can be in survival mode mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Okay. If you are in survival mode, everything is not urgent. Some things are more important than others, right? Some things you can't fix. Okay. Some things you won't fix. And you have to recognize which you're which. Okay. If you're in survival mode, you don't have to have a bad day every day. Okay. Sometimes you can be so focused on not having a bad day that you never see the good in that day. If you are in survival mode, you need sleep to reset your body and your mind. Get you some. Okay. Your body needs fuel. Eat. Okay. Your spirit needs nourishment. Feed it. You don't need to respond to every person and everything. This can cause you being in survival mode to continue because what? You're creating more problems. You're creating more challenges when your brain is already impulsive. Okay. So those are the things I want to tell you if you are in survival mode in any area of your body, of your mind, of your spirit, of your soul. Okay. Check to see which parts of you are in survival mode. Put the issues on the table. Okay. Get spiritual support and then start regulating and bringing those things and those systems back in to balance. Okay. Remember, this was not God's design for us to remain in a state of survival. He desires that we live a life and live it abundantly, right? That means abundance in every area, not just financially, right? And you can be in good health physically, but that won't last long if your emotions are in turmoil. And so you want every area, you want to take an account of every area and not just focus so much just in one area that you're not paying attention, that you're draining another area or that another area needs help. And so that was the session for today. I hope that if you are in survival mode, you recognize the issues and the challenges, you put them on the table, you make a plan and take action towards a solution. Don't try to solve a problem with another problem. Don't create more problems because then you will never get out of that cycle of being in survival mode. And so I want you all to live an abundant life. Live an abundant life mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Let's hope that we will be restored, right? That this is not something that has to continue. Let's have that hope that we will be restored and things will be balanced in our lives. Okay. So that's what we're going to choose. Until next week, I will see you all next Friday at 3 o'clock.